As we found out on Thursday, washi tape isn't really the greatest thing to use if you only have 5 minutes to set up a weekly spread. Especially if, like me, you're a little bit fussy and you actually like to lay it straight. But today we'll be looking at a couple of other 5-minute weekly setups you could use in your journal. Hello again team, it's Jess or JashiiCorrin, and as I mentioned, in today's video I'm going to be taking you through a couple of different 5-minute weekly setups. As you can see, the phone is back for today, and I've done the right thing and turned this one onto Do Not Disturb, so hopefully we don't lose any more footage. As I did in Thursday's video, I'm going to be using my phone to make sure I stick to the 5-minute time limit. And so for each of the 5 spreads I have for you today, I'll be setting the timer, setting up the layout, and then we'll talk through it before I start on the next one. For today's spreads, I'm going to be keeping my equipment pretty minimal, so I have my Pitt Artist pens as per usual, and this yellow 025 Tombow dual brush marker. So starting with number 1 in 3, 2, 1, go. While in Thursday's video I showed you me setting up the spread in real time, as I'm doing 5 layouts today, I thought it best to speed them up a little bit. For each of the time-lapse sections in this video, these are at 4 times that of normal speed, so the usual 5 minutes for the weekly spread is shown in roughly 1 minute and 15 seconds. For this first layout, I decided to start with the most time-consuming part first, the mini calendar. This likely wouldn't be a feature you might think would be on a spread that you have to set up in 5 minutes, but I wanted to show that it is indeed possible to get one of these into a fully completed weekly spread with that kind of a time restraint. One of the issues that I've encountered previously with the LT1917, but forgot about when I started filming today, is that because the paper is coated, it does take a little longer for the pens to fully dry. Therefore, I did get a bit of smudging as I quickly set up this mini calendar. Because by my standards, leaving a spread with smudges unattended to is not a finished spread, I do go in at the end with my Uniball Signo to cover those up. You'll see that I also used an eraser to get rid of some guiding lines I put in for myself. While in Thursday's video I didn't use these, I wanted 5 spread ideas for you today and didn't want to forget them by the time it came to recording. There we go, so that is the first of our 5. As you can see, we have a column for each weekday and then the weekend is shared in this space here. A large section down the bottom here for notes and then also a time-consuming mini calendar. A couple of ways you could change this one up, because this large section at the bottom for notes might not be useful for everybody. You could put a space here for a meal log or a small habits tracker or something like that. But because you only have the 5 minutes to set up, given my time restriction, these would likely be a little bit less intricate than the ones that I typically do. Some ways to save time on this one, you saw I did go in with a ruler, and that's because I actually find it faster to use a ruler, but some people will find it faster to just go and freehand these lines in. But if you're rushing like I am, it means that these lines likely won't be as straight as they otherwise could be. Moving on to our next one. And again, starting the timer in 3, 2, 1, go. For this next one, we have what is likely one of the most simple weekly layout designs. This one is achieved by dividing each page of the spread in half both vertically and horizontally, which gives 8 evenly sized squares, which are typically used so that you have one for each day of the week, and then the last space for anything else you need. On this one, I designated it to be a note section, but again, it can be used for things like a meal log, or a habit tracker, or a gratitude log, or anything else you can think of. I know at the moment it kinda looks like I'm drawing a bunch of sunny side up eggs on the page, which technically could be a nice decorative element, but what I'm going to be doing is turning these into mini simple wreaths, just by putting some little sticks out the side, alternating whether I'm going inwards or outwards. And then once all of those are drawn in, I go in again with my Tombow to add some small dots for added decoration. Admittedly, I wasn't quite as mindful as I could have been with the time here, so for the first couple of wreaths I spent a little bit too much time paying attention to the spacing of the sticks, rather than actually giving myself adequate time to put the dots in neatly. To save time on this, I could have drawn in less sticks, or just done multiple overlapping circles. Close enough! No, stop! Okay, so this one. If you're a little bit more sensible with your decoration, then it can look quite visually effective. As you saw towards the end, I had to kind of pick up the pace a little bit because I spent a little bit too much time, I think, over here being mindful of the even spacing of my branches. But hopefully you can kind of see the thing I was going for. So we have these small, very, very simple wreaths around each of the initials for each of the days, and then a section for notes over here. A spread like this is really super simple. You're just dividing each of your pages into 4 blocks. And then the way that you decorate and actually use these is completely up to you. So again, I've gone for notes over here. This could be a space for a meal log or a running task list where the tasks aren't really day specific or something like that. As with the last spread, because the pages of the LT are coated, it means that the ink doesn't really dry quite as fast, so I am getting a little bit of smudging here as I end up going over some of the areas that I've just recently put ink down on. Moving on to our next one though. So just resetting our timer and going in 3, 2, 1, go. Our next 5-minute weekly was inspired by this post from Alexa of Bullet Journal Boss over on Instagram. From the decorative elements along the bottom and the overall neatness of the page, I'd say that this one likely took her a little bit longer than 5 minutes, but it was the placement of each element that inspired the design of the one I'm doing here. I started this one off by first laying down the yellow with my Tombow, and then using the M-size Pitt Artist Pen for the main headings and the dividing lines. Just as a comment about all of these spreads, I really love the contrast between the dark black and the really bright yellow. This is hands down my favourite yellow Tombow. It's one of only, I think, 3 of the pens from my original 96 set that I've had to get a replacement pen because I used the first one until it was all dried up. Although in the first layout I made the smart decision to do the most time-consuming part first, when setting this one up, I kind of forgot that I had intended to do a mini calendar over on the left above the running task list. Knowing how long it had actually taken from the first layout though, I was a bit more careful when doing this one and made sure to better form my numbers and also took my time not to smudge my pen. There we go, another one done. I'm just going to erase a pencil line here that I missed. But all finished for this one as well. So we have spaces for each day of the week and then the weekend shared over here. As you can see, these boxes are slightly smaller than these ones to allow for the running task list. So if balance was something you find to be really important, you could convert this section over here to be for something else, just to balance the page up a little bit. So I've gone 8 squares in on this side to allow room for the mini calendar. You just need to go 8 squares in on this side and then put something else in there. It could be some kind of a decoration piece, or again, it could be a habit tracker, meal log, gratitude log, anything like that. Moving on to our next one. For the next 2 weekly layouts, I have 1-page weeklies. And cutting down on the amount of space you use is one of the easiest ways to save time. So I'm going to have one on this page, one on that one. But again, it's going to be 5 minutes for each of them. In 3, 2, 1, go. I know I literally just made the comment about giving myself 5 minutes for each of these, but really for what I had originally planned on each of these pages, I could have fairly easily fit both of them into the same 5-minute time block. If anything, I think that giving myself the full 5 minutes per layout here meant that I made unnecessary additions just to fill space. For the one on the left though, this one runs along the same idea as our second layout, though instead of splitting the whole spread into 8 boxes, for this one it's just the 1 page. Originally I'd planned not to include a dividing line down the middle because I wanted to set up a layout that didn't use a ruler. But again, because I had the time, I then went and put in this dashed and dotted line, which I really love to use as a divider. Looking back though, something I could have used my extra time to realize is that on 3 out of 5 of these layouts, I wrote June instead of July. One of the 5 doesn't even count though because I didn't even write a month on that one at all. That's a 75% fail rate on date writing. Pfft. Thankfully, this isn't my real journal. Here, in the interest of using up extra time, I'm just adding some decorative dots. So So as you will have seen, for this one I was able to take a lot longer and really kind of take my time in doing it, because there's a lot less line work on this one. The decoration is a lot more simple. There's no mini calendar to fill out. And also a small but still significant change was that instead of using the full day of the week, I used just the first 3 letters. For our last 5-minute weekly, jumping over to this page and setting our timer, 3, 2, 1, go. So onto the only layout that I got the month correct on. This one I started off by drawing all of my dividing lines using my M-size Pit Artist pen. For this one we have a space for date-dependent events and tasks down the left-hand side, and then on the right there's space for a running to-do list. The decoration on this one mainly comes from overlapping black text onto the yellow that I put down for both the header and the days of the week. Overlapping text onto coloured blocks or sections is one of the simplest and quickest ways to add decoration to an otherwise quite plain spread. If you choose colours that contrast well, like the black and the yellow that I've got here, it can be really visually effective. Black with any vibrant or bright colour will work really well, but you can also play around with using other coloured pens on lighter coloured blocks. For those, it would probably be best to use a gel pen because the ink's a little bit thicker and it'll be less likely to blend into the colour behind it. I know I literally did just suggest that the coloured blocks you're writing on top of would be lighter, but one of my favourite combos is a good white gel pen on a black block of colour. There we go. So this last line here I just added in because I had a little bit of extra time, but again you can see, really didn't have to rush for this one. Nice and simple. So on this one we have a smaller section for each day of the week for any events and day specific tasks, and then a nice large section for a running to-do list. I'm kind of annoyed. I feel like I should have made this video before I set up my own 5-minute weekly on Thursday, because I'm kind of feeling like I like some of these better than what I made for myself. Just for a final flip through though, we had the one with the vertical columns, the one where each page was quartered, the one with 3 different sized daily boxes, and then our 2 one-page weeklies. If I had to pick a favourite of these ones, I'd probably say it was this one here. It's similar to some of the ones I've used before and I know it has worked for me. What I'd like to know though, of the 5, which one was your favourite? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and if you liked today's video, feel free to go check out another one. Until next time, bye!